Hello and welcome to a Paladin protection guide by your boy, the MacBoy. Today we'll be taking a look at our talents, stats and consumables, some conduits, and what each covenant has to offer, along with their soulbinds, and taking a look at legendaries and what they will do for you, and then also having a look at our spell priorities and a bit of a single target and AoE opener. Without further ado, let's get into our talents. So with the talents, we'll be looking at three talent choices or three talent builds that I would recommend for a beginner AoE and single target. This is for anyone that's getting into tanking or getting into Paladin tanking. On our level 15 row, we'll go ahead and choose Holy Shield. Level 25, Crusader's Judgment. Level 30, Fist of Judgment. Level 35, Unbreakable Spirit. Level 40, Divine Purpose. Level 45, we'll go with Judgment of Light. And level 50, Final Stand. And why this may be is on level 15, Holy Shield gives us 15% extra block chance, which is just phenomenal for survivability. With Crusader's Judgment on the level 25 row, it gives us an additional charge of judgment, giving us more holy power, which is really great. On the level 35 row, Fist of Justice reduces the cooldown of your stun, Hammer of Justice. Level 35, Unbreakable Spirit reduces 3 cooldowns by 30%, being Lay on Hands, Ardent Defender, and Divine Shield, aka Bubble. On the level 40 row, we have Divine Purpose. This ensures that each spender of Holy Power gives us a 15% chance to have a next spender free and do increased healing or damage by 20% depending on the spell. So absolutely phenomenal. Free Holy Power, it's a great choice. Level 45, Judgment of Light, gives a buff to your target that is thrown with judgment, and they will successfully heal you for 25 attacks, or 25 successful attacks will heal you. So really nice there to just add a bit of survivability. Getting into level 50, Final Stand makes your bubble automatically taunt everything in a 15-yard radius. So it's really nice in those major oh shit moments where you need to really just survive but still want to keep aggro. That's just phenomenal. Moving on to our AoE build. On the level 15 row, we have Blessed Hammer. 25 row, we have First Avenger. You can see 30, 35, and 40 is basically unchanged. This, in my opinion, is just the best stats. I prefer more stuns, so I go with Fist of Justice, but really depending on what you need as a group, you will then choose different talents in that row. On our level 45 row, however, we have Consecrated Ground. This will give you 15 more yards on your consecration, and it now also slows the mobs within the consecration by 50%. So it's really nice to have a bit of kiting going on, especially when you're dealing with a group of mobs. And then on our level 50 row, Righteous Protector. Essentially, you're going to be spending holy power to keep up your mitigation, and we'll get in that to that in a bit. But essentially, it reduces the cooldown of your Avenging Wrath, which is your wings, and a Guardian of the Ancient Kings for every holy power you spend. So at the end of the day, just faster uptime on your major defensive and offensive abilities. It's really nice. Moving on to our single target rotation talents, we'll see a lot similar play style to your beginner talents, where Holy Shield, Crusader's Judgment, again the three stack there, for me personally. Along just going down into Judgment of Light, and then the level 50 though, I would, once you get a bit used to not having to rely on pressing bubble to survive a certain pool, you can switch to Righteous Protector again for that um, cooldown reduction on two major abilities, or you could choose Sanctified Wrath for longer wings. Entirely up to your playstyle, which you like. I personally do enjoy having a lot more uptime or more cooldown reduction, just because you are having so much holy power generated and you're spending so much, you're just gonna have it up faster. But yeah. Alright, getting on to the next point, which be starting off with our stats. This time around, it's always been this way though. Your item level will be king, just getting that overall strength, giving you more armor, so being able to survive a lot more. So eye level is king. When you're dealing with items that are of the same level, then you would want to be taking into consideration haste, versatility, mastery, and critical strike. Haste just gives us more uptime on generating holy power to then effectively be more tanky. Versatility gives up that 3 damage reduction, damage increase, and healing increase, so it's really great. And our mastery works really well when you are getting that DR while standing in consecration, along with adding attack power and block chance. And I'd pretty much say that versatility and mastery are very equal here. That being said, you do have more options in terms of haste mastery gear than haste versatility gear. That being said, when it comes to gear, I just try and obtain all the haste versatility pieces first, and then fill the rest with haste versatility, and you'll be golden if you want to follow a strict stat. Wait, moving on to that nice food. You know, everyone has to fill their belly every now and then. Going along the lines with the stats, you wanna keep it at a relative level amount. Diminishing returns do happen after 30%, so I know I should have spoken about this earlier, but moving on. Whatever you are lacking the least for your haste, Tenebrious Crown Rose Aspect gives you haste for 1 hour. Iridescent Ravioli with applesauce will give you mastery for 1 hour. Steak a la mode will be your versatility food of choice, and if available, Feast of Gluttonous Hedonism will give you that primary stat boost. So basically, eat whatever whatever your lowest stat is, just to kind of get them up there. But haste will be your best go-to. Moving on to our gems. If you are fortunate enough to have some sockets, then go again with haste, versatility, and mastery. Remember, trying not to cap out on that 30% DR. For your enchants, we have again 3 for your rings, and you essentially just want to enchant whatever you need more of, being Tenet of Haste, Tenet of Versatility, or Tenet of Mastery on your rings. On your cloak, you will want to then get a Stamina and Speed enchant, Fortified Speed. It'll just give you more health and to be able to move around the battlefield a bit faster. Eternal stats is great for your chest to get that primary stats that we spoke about for your survivability, and then on your gloves you'll get eternal strength. This will give you back will give you 15 strength, which is also really nice. And Also, do not forget to pick up some heavy desolate armor kits. This only lasts for 2 hours, but it can be applied to your chest to give you 32 more stamina. So it's really, really nice. Then moving on to your alchemical needs. I know it's a lot to take in. Just bear with me, yeah. So for your flasks, there's only one that gives primary stat, which is great. So if there is an eternal cauldron available, go ahead and pick up a spectral flask of power that it will drop for you. That's just going to be your best overall. Taking a look at your weapon enchant, you have Shadow Core Oil for more damage. Right? You also have Shaded Waystone and Shaded Sharpening Stone. So the difference between Shaded Waystone and Sharpening Stone is the one's for a blunt weapon and the one is for a bladed weapon. So you'd use the blunt one for, let's say, a mace, right? As where a axe and a sword will probably be your sharpening stone, which is your bladed weapon. So just be a bit mindful of which weapon you have and which enchant you can apply. These are both going to just give you attack power. Along with potions, combat potions, we have potion of hardened shadows and potion of spectral strength. Hardened Shadow is going to give you more armor for 25 seconds, where you're going to get 190 strength for 25 seconds. So, strength is more versatile, being your primary stat, right? And armor is just armor. It's just going to make you survive. You know, you for sure will die without having popping that armor boost, then by all means, but strength will give you armor in mitigation and some more damage. So stick with primary. Then we have potions of empowered exorcisms and potion of phantom fire. These two are paired up nicely when taken shadow core oil because their damage is then increased. Empowered exorcisms is for your AoE damage burst, and phantom fire will be your single target. So you have shadow core applied, and then you pop these potions that last for 25 seconds. Phantom fire is going to just knock off extra single target damage, as where empowered exorcisms is going to do additional damage to a AoE pack, right? Um, right. That's all you need to know so far for your alchemical needs. Um, Taking a look into our next part, covenants and conduits. So taking a look at our Paladin conduits, these are for prot specifically. They have 2 endurance conduits and 2 potency conduits. Our endurance conduits is resolute defender and royal decree. So resolute defender essentially just gives you more uptime on your ardent defender, which is your DR, and reduces the cooldown of it. A royal decree will give you a cooldown on your ancient guardians of kings, and when you do cast said spell, you'll have a free word of glory, essentially healing you. Really nice. Moving on to our potency conduits, we have punish the guilty, vengeful shock. Punish the guilty will be matched up nicely when you're running more single target build, giving your judgments a bit more room to play. You have 2 charges of judgment, you toss it on each, and you need to do the shield of the righteous maximum dam. Vengeful shock, I'd say more in an AoE setting, as where your shield is going to be hitting a lot more targets, and they're going to be taking increased holy damage for the next 5 seconds, which is a lot of damage. The consecration, basically, your entire toolkit is holy damage, right? Then moving on to our generic paladin conduits, we have 3 endurance and 4 finesse. Shielding words is our first one, where it gives you an absorb shield after casting word of glory. for a certain percentage of the healing that you did, which is really nice, whether you heal yourself or a teammate. Divine Call essentially reduces the cooldown of Divine Shield by 5 seconds every time you take damage. Note that this can't happen every um, X amount of seconds depending on your eye level. So baseline is 48 seconds. Golden Path is another endurance conduit that will heal you while you are in your consecration, which is really nice, and especially for us prots, we need to be standing in consecration constantly. So really, really nice endurance conduits. Looking on to our finesse conduits, we have Light's Barding, increases Divine Steed's duration. So basically, your little pony, your movement ability, it now lasts a bit longer. Range Evil, your turn evil is basically a bit shorter to cast, and you can reach someone a bit further. Pure concentration makes your concentration order basically reduce its incoming fear effects by an additional 20%, because it already does that normally. Now this just amps it up. Echoing blessings. This essentially turns all three of your blessings, blessing of protection, blessing of sacrifice, and blessing of freedom, to have a bit more damage reduction and movement speed from Blessing of Freedom. And then these damage reduction percentages will linger for 8 seconds after the blessing has faded. So it's a really nice utility conduit right there. Right, moving on to our first covenant, Bastion. With Bastion, we have Summon Steward that gives you a File of Serenity, and the covenant ability is Divine Toll. The steward does give you various abilities to either vendor your things out of your bag every hour or change your talents for every 4 hours, apart from giving you 3 files of serenity that restores 20% of your health and removes all uh, dots basically on you. Not all of them in raid situations, but most of them will be removed in dungeon settings. Divine Toll, this is our class ability that instantly throws out Avenger Shield. So, facing 5 targets, you'll hit 5 targets. It generates 5 holy power. It's extremely strong um, on a 1 minute cooldown. And obviously, it gets all its benefits from Avenger Shield as well. So, you need to silence 5 people in the pack. Boom, let it off. While they're casting, they will get interrupted. Really beautiful. Um, Bastion also comes with its own potency conduit, and thus will increase the chance that your divine toll hits your first target for an additional 3 times. Baseline 40%, and then as the item level goes up, the percentage becomes higher. Looking at our first um, soulbind out of the 3 is Pelagos, and this is generically the soulbind that you would uh, run for protection paladin, giving us that combat meditation, increasing our mastery um, by 350 for 10 seconds, and then occasionally dropping these sorrowful memories that extends this buff for by another 3 seconds, and it drops 3 of them. So it's really nice to be able to collect those and keep up that mastery uptime. We get 2 potencies and 2 endurance slots. As you can see, Punish the Guilty in the first one, Resolute Defender in the second, Ringing Clarity, which is our Bastion potency conduit, along with Shielding Words for that absorb shield every time you heal. And then obviously going into Let Go of the Past for that additional magic uh, reduction, which is really strong. Claire's up next. Let's have a look at her. She has Valiant Strikes. So this essentially makes all your critical strikes build up stacks. And when someone in your party falls below 50%, it will consume these stacks to heal this person. So really nice in terms of additional group healing. Clayer does give us access to two potencies, one finesse and one endurance. Punish the guilty again. In the first one, single target, I would recommend that one. And if you can afford to change it to vengeful shock every time you're going to a AoE scenario, then by all means run that one. Um, I honestly would actually have chosen vengeful shock in all situations. But that being said, in the finesse conduit slot, we have echoing blessings, which just amp your blessing spells by quite a bit. Resolute defender in the endurance slot for the extension of ardent defender and the cooldown reduction, and then again ringing clarity into the final slot over there. And the ability that we get at the bottom will then just have a 20% chance. I don't think it's a 20% chance, but nonetheless, it aids with slowing the the enemies. So it's really nice to go down into that one. Where the middle one gives you critical strike for every enemy or ally around you, and when you heal someone above 75%, the same heal lingers on there for about 4 seconds afterwards. So yeah, the slow is just more beneficial. Moving on to Forge Light Prime. Right, he has bronze call to action. This being said, after 90 abilities, so you will spawn Bron, which is a big ass Goliath, um, that will run and knock the enemies out of your way. He'll last for 30 seconds, and then you'll also proceed to heal whoever is close to him. Right, so it's a real nice little knowing, okay, follow your buffs. I'm gonna need to kite soon. Let's go to utilize it in aiding you to kite as a tank. So a really nice ability. Forge Light Prime gives us access to one potency, one finesse, and two endurance. I mean, here we're having an aid of a big ass Goliath coming in, so survivability would be of the utmost importance in this tree, right? Um, we'll go with Ringing Clarity for that extra chance of hitting your primary target, down into Echoing Blessings for the first finesse. Resolute Defender, once again for the duration extension and cooldown for Ardent Defender, along with Shielding Words again for the absorption shield for every time you heal. And then down into a talent that essentially gives us more haste, which is really nice. Really, really nice. And I can't stress how much haste is valuable. Right, moving on to our next. It is Maldraxxus. So Maldraxxus gives us Fleshcraft, and the class ability is Vanquish's Hammer. Their potency conduit is Righteous Might. So what Fleshcraft does is it's a 2-minute cooldown that gives you an absorb shield for 20% of your health for 2 minutes, or unless utilized and actually absorbs the amount of damage. But essentially, you have 2 minutes of an absorb shield to go through, right? Which won't last long, but nonetheless, it's still an absorb shield. Um, Vanquish's Hammer is really, really nice. I'm not even going to lie. This it essentially deals quite a bit of damage, and then it will make you automatically utilize a Shield of the Righteous once you hit Word of Glory. So you pop the Covenant ability, um, Covenant class ability, you pop that, you go into a Word of Glory, and automatically a Shield of the Righteous will proc. Really nice if you can find it. Um, find the tuning to play with the Shining Light proc that gives every fifth Shield of the Righteous you have a free Word of Glory, so it can be um, played together with that. With the Potency Conduit, I know I'm just losing my ways here. The Potency Conduit is Righteous Might, which now turns our Vanquisher's Hammer to do more damage, yes, but it also heals us for the damage done. So it's really nice. On a 30-second cooldown, I would say that defensively and offensively, it's really nice, especially for a single target um, encounter. All right. Moving on to our first of the three, Plague Deviser Merilith. And this is just my overall representation of what I would make the tree to look like. Um, it has volatile solvent, solvent. Okay, yeah. Using fleshcraft near corpses consumes the essence completely and granting the benefit. So we know that there are certain benefits, damage reduction, some haste, um, so on and so forth. So now with Plague Device and Merilith, when you do Fleshcraft near a corpse, not only do you get a stronger absorb shield, but you also get the ability that this creature had. Alright? Um, Here we have access to two conduit slots and two endurance. So Righteous Might will be your overall best potency, just because it increases the damage and it also now heals you for the ability. Into a Resolute Defender, Punish the Guilty, and Shielding Words. You'll see that Shielding Words and the Resolute Defender are always the go-to um, for endurance potent endurance conduits. Moving on to Imeni. Imeni has a lead by example, which every time you use um, your Vanquisher's Hammer, it will increase your primary stat, strength, yay, by 5%, and then it will also increase your allies' primary stat, which is really nice, and then you will gain primary stat again for each ally. So it's just really nice. Every time on a 30-second cooldown, boom, more primary stat, more defensives. Really great. Moving on, we have two endurance, one finesse, and one potency. Resolute Defender, echoing blessings will generally just be your go-to for your finesse slot, unless you really want light spotting for the movement. Then by all means, I just find more satisfactory play with echoing blessings. And then we have shielding words in the second, endurance, and of course righteous might in the potency. So that's basically what I would go for. Next on, Bonesmith Hemia. Right, we have Forgeborn Revitus. Revi, I'm not even sure. Okay, anyway, moving on. Your primary stat and armor is increased by 1% for each enchantment you have on your armor. So essentially, if you at least have 3 enchantments, you're going to get a 3% primary stat boost, right? But also, when you die, it will allow you to still fight for 10 seconds, but your damage and healing is reduced by 50%, and you cannot be healed. So it's a nice little 10-second in case you die to get off either a combat res or I don't know, but either way, it's a nice little cheat death for 10 seconds. Um, with this Bonesmith here, we have one potency, two finesse, and one endurance. Righteous might, without saying. Echoing Blessings, Resolute Defender, and Light Spotting, right? And then the last one is essentially going to give you some health back every time you kill enemies. So it's really nice. The first ability, I believe, will reduce the cooldown of Fleshcraft um, for every enemy you kill as well. So that's really nice. The middle one, the satchel gives you all, where the other one is, I'm not too sure. I'm not even going to lie. But either way. Moving on to Ardenweald. Soul Shape is your Covenant ability that will get you a nice little Vulpin for 12 seconds, and every 4 seconds you are able to then blink 15 yards forward. The initial activation blinks you 15 yards, and then another 4 seconds afterwards, you can blink and. So mobility really great, not going to lie, especially for us paladins that are really slow. Along with that, you have Blessing of Seasons, which is the ability, and they will be translated into blessings of each season, essentially giving you a different buff. You have Blessing of Spring, Blessing of Autumn, Blessing of Summer, and then Blessing of Winter. Right, and it will rotate in this order that I mentioned: spring, autumn, summer, winter. Spring giving you increased healing, uh, by 10%, and you receive 20% increased healing. So you can pop it on yourself if you know you need really bad or huge amounts of healing, or you can give that extra 10% to your healer to be able to heal the group. Not bad. Essentially, the way these abilities works is to help your group out as much as you can to overcome whatever needs to be overcome, right? Blessing of Autumn will be the next one it turns into, which will then bless your allies to reduce their cooldowns by 30% faster. So really nice for a fire mage or whoever needs cooldowns up more. You will utilize this buff on. Blessing of Summer then is the next one, where it will bless your ally or yourself to have a 40% chance to do 30% additional damage as holy damage. So not too bad, just a bit of extra damage. Blessing of Winter will also buff the attacks, but it will change the attacks into frost attacks, limiting their movement speed by 3%. And I mean, the attack speed, it reduces the attack speed by 3% and the movement speed by 2%, but stacking up 10 times. So essentially, it's a 30% attack speed reduction and 20% movement speed reduction, which is really nice. Uh, the night phase potency conduit is the long summer, and essentially, this just buffs your blessing of summer um, for a longer duration, and that is a blessing that increases someone's attack power by 30% on a 40% chance. Right, moving on to our next category will be Naya, is the first soulbind, and she gives you Grove Invigoration. Essentially, your healing and damaging abilities is going to give you procs of Redirected Anima, which will increase your maximum health by 1% and your mastery by 25 for 30 seconds, and stacks may overlap. So as you know, if you utilize your ability, it will now grant you 6 stacks immediately, and that's every 45 seconds. Looking at Naya's Soulbind tree, she gives us access to 2 endurance, 1 finesse, and 1 potency. And that being said, Resolute Defender will be really nice. Echoing Blessings down to Shielding Words, and then the long summer to increase the summer buff duration, right? Into the burrs, because we know that have protection paladins have so much ways to interrupt your shield, your actual kick. You can stun, that won't really count, but at the end of the day, you have so many opportunities to interact with your shield. That's just going to apply even more poison by that ability for interrupting each and every time. So a bit more damage there as well. Moving on to Dreamweaver. Fun fact: I, for the longest time, I thought Dreamweaver was a guy. Obviously, didn't pay. I mean, a girl didn't pay attention to the voice acting. My bad. Uh, but yeah, Dreamweaver is actually a guy. Fun little fact. And in any case, he gives us pot tender. So if you, it's basically another cheat death. You take damage to the face that will kill you. You then pop the seed that will last 10 seconds, and you will regenerate some health, which is not bad. Just I don't think that viable for the tank, because I mean, you'll drop all aggro, and for the next 10 seconds, your team has to make a plan. So if you can kind of plan around those 10 seconds, and taking into consideration that you're going to die for whatever reason, that can only happen every 10 minutes, then by all means go for it. Dreamweaver gives us access to 3 endurance, making us heavily defense orientated, and 1 potency. That being said, Resolute Defender, um, Long Summer, Shielding Words down into Golden Path for the second one, just for that extra bit of healing. The next one doesn't really matter. I just like the movement speed after spending a minute in a rested area, which is really nice. And then, of course, every time you utilize your uh, blessing on an ally, you are capable of getting a bit of haste, um, in, increased haste by standing still in the leaves that spawn. So really nice overall. Kuran is, or Koran is the next soulbind, and the last soulbind of the Nightfake Ardenweal Covenant. Here we have Wild Hunt Tactics. So your damage essentially in the first um, window, the 75, when a boss or target is in 75% or more health, your damage is increased by 10%, or when you heal someone that is below 35% health, which still applies because we can still heal. Um, and when your spells and abilities is enhanced by this, so in those windows, you also gain movement speed, 15% increased movement speed for 5 seconds during that window. So it's a really nice. Um, that being said, he gives us access to 2 endurance, 1 finesse, and 1 potency. Resolute Defender in the first one, where Echoing Blessings, along with Shielding Words and the Long Summer. And then the last ability is just damage reduction for standing in front of the guy. So really nice. To sum it up, that's Naya, Dreamweaver, and Koran. I'd honestly just stick with Naya and you'd be good. Moving on to Ravendrift. Now, Ravendrift is known for the raiding abilities. It's just because of the longer cooldowns. You get Door of Shadows on a 1 minute cooldown. That is essentially a blink or a teleport, so to speak, actually. And then we get Ashen Hollow as the Covenant ability, which leaves a huge ass puddle of, I would say, blood. It looks like blood on the floor for 30 seconds, and then it will damage enemies in it, and it will heal allies in it on a 4 second cooldown. I mean, a 4 minute cooldown. And while you are within Ashen Hollow, you are capable of utilizing your Hammer of Wrath, which is really nice. And its damage is increased by 100%. So, a really powerful hammer for that duration. Um, Hollowed Discernment is the potency conduit that Vencia offers, essentially making Ashen Hollow strike the allies with lower health to heal them, and it has an additional 40% time on the effect. So basically, is extending Ashen Hollow by a certain percentage, which is really nice. Moving on, we have three soulbinds: Najia, Theater, and Draven. Let's take a look at Najia first. She gives us Thrill Seeker, and this is while in combat. You gain stacks of Thrill Seeker every 2 seconds, or 4 stacks for killing an enemy. Right? So essentially, you build up to 40 stacks. You get a proc that increases your haste for 20% for 10 seconds, and then it'll um, basically drop down if you're not in combat, right? Najia offers us 2 endurance, 1 finesse, and 2 finesse conduits. Resolute Defender, Echoing Blessings, Shielding Words, and Light Spotting for the movement speed, which is really, really nice. Because if you're going to be raiding quite a bit, I mean, you want to be able to move around as much as possible when you need to. Moving on to Theater, Soothing Shade. This is a proc based ability that your tubbins and gubbins basically pop up holding a parasol above your head, and while you are standing within that shade, you gain 525 mastery for 12 seconds. So it's really, really nice in terms of obtaining that mastery. I'm not going to lie. Theater does give us access to 2 endurance and 2 potency conduits, which by all means, I think that Theater would be your best bet for mythic um, approach of the Vincia, giving us a Resolute Defender. We're going to put Hollowed Discernment in there because it just extends the duration of Ashen Hollow for us. The next two choices don't really matter. I mean, you can get some nice herbs there for free. Over the other one, Shielding Words, Punish the Guilty, as you will be more raid orientated, or go with Vengeful Shock. They're really dependent on you. Then going down into the last talent there, that is going to apply a little Absorb Shield on someone that is healing you. So essentially, or giving you any type of benefit. You can only target someone every 20 seconds, I think, with this Absorb Shield. It happens randomly, so it's beyond your control. Moving on to Draven. Draven has Service in Stone, so essentially really, really nice for progression, where you are going to be taking a lot of damage that you are uncertain of. Your damage taken while you are below 40% is reduced by 10%. And when you die, you do inflict damage to all the enemies that you died to, and you will then hit the rest of your party with healing. So really, really nice there. If it might be for the damage and healing factor, taking that into consideration, you can utilize it in niche situations. Nonetheless, we also get 2 endurance and 2 potency conduits here: Resolute Defender, Hollow Discernment, along with Shielding Words and Punish the Guilty. I think the one is Last Stand or something to that effect. And essentially, you just stand for about 5 seconds and the damage you take is reduced as well. So, really, really strong between him and Theater. It's just pure um, survivability, and I'd say Theater is a bit more offensive with survivability baked into it. Right. Moving on into the Legos. So Prot Paladin has quite a choice to be making, depending on the covenant and, well, I wouldn't say covenant, but depending on the content that you're going to be doing, right? with our four legendaries, we have Bulwark of Righteous Fury, we have Holy Avengers Engraved Sigil, Reign of Endless Kings, and the Ardent Protector's Sanctum. So, first of all, uh, Bulwark of Righteous Fury is going to increase the damage that your Shield of the Righteous does by 30% for each ally hit. And when you're running in a pure AoE scenario, that's 5 targets, 150% increased damage from your next Shield of the Righteous, which is pretty good. So really, really strong in AoE situations where your Holy Avengers Engraved Sigil is decent for single target. It shines a bit more damage wise in single target, and also it would be your survivability choice. For pure survivability, I would say go for Holy Avengers uh, Engraved Sigil, which is really, really nice. And if you want a bit more damage, Bulwark of the Righteous Fury of Righteous Fury. Uh, in A Reign of Endless Kings and the pro, the Ardent Protector's Sanctum. Jeez, get this right. It's not only your first guide ever. um, so Reign of Endless Kings. When you drop below 20%, you become infused with Ancient Guardians of Kings for 4 seconds, and that can only happen every 45 seconds. So not too bad when you are progressing as well defensively. If you don't want to think about something and just have it there as a good defensive mechanism, I'd say that's also a very strong defensive um, legendary. But this pure defensive as where your Holy Avengers is more essentially going to be generating more holy power, and it's going to be giving you more mitigation uptime. Ardent Defender, the Ardent Protector Sanctum, is the legendary that drops from the raid, and this will reduce the damage while in Ardent Defender by additional 10%, so from 20% to 10%. And when active, you also apply it to a buddy. So really good and strong for raid. That's why it came from the raid, because you will also be giving it to your code tank. I do believe this will be changing soon in the next patch to come, 0.5, I believe. But yeah, I'll make adjustments when the time comes. Looking on to our Prot Paladin, our generic Paladin legendaries: Uther's Devotion, the Magistrate's Judgment, Relentless Inquisitor, the Mad Paragon, and we have Of Dusk and Dawn. Not bad legendaries at all. Really, really find yourself in some niche situations where you need a bit more haste, or you just want that overall more damage from Hammer of Wrath. Again, the Protection Paladin legendaries are in its own right, doing its thing when it comes to more damage or survivability. All right, moving on to the next side. All right. So looking at our priorities, we essentially want to be building holy power. With more holy power, we have more time to spend it on Shield of the Righteous, and this is more armor, meaning more mitigation. So if you have Hammer of Wrath, you want to spend that and always have it on cooldown, no matter what. Right? Judgment will then fall into second place when you do not have Hammer of Wrath, meaning when you're not in wings, or when you are not taking on an opponent with 20% or less health. Judgment becomes your first priority. Shield of the Righteous. Avenger Shield. Shield of the Righteous. Avenger Shield. Um, this is second priority, gaining you holy power as well, and just doing some more damage on your opponents. That being said, you always want to be standing in consecration. Always. Blessed Hammer or Hammer of the Righteous is really dependent on what you have played there, is a filler. Moving on to our single target rotation. This would just be a little opener if you are running the single target build. I would then make sure that everyone's ready, open with a judgment into a avenging shield, consecration down for mitigation, hammer of the righteous, and then shield of the righteous to get that active mitigation going. Moving on to AoE opener. This is Blessed Hammer build, so we would want to precast a Blessed Hammer right there just to generate one holy power. We won't use the proc right there, into a avenging shield, into a judgment, consecration for mitigation, and then a shield of the righteous, netting you those 3 holy powers, consecration always, and that's what it does. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate your time and effort to get through my very first guide. It is much appreciated. If you learned anything new, have any comments, tools, and tips on anything going into the future, please let me know in the comments down below. It will be much appreciated. If you like this, leave a like and subscribe, as much more is to come. Have a wonderful day further. Peace.